Hello there, my name is Jenny D and today I'm going to be doing a video on one pencil shading. Now this video goes along with the article that I've written for Colour On magazine, but of course you're welcome to follow on if you found this through other sources. So the exercise that I wrote about asks you to draw 3 boxes or 3 squares, so don't make them too big, otherwise it'll take you forever to colour in. Okay, so 3 little boxes, and then in the middle box you are going to colour just as you normally would with a medium pressure. Then in the first box you're going to colour with a much lighter pressure, so relax the grip and aim for a lighter tone in that box. And then in the very last box, colour with a harder pressure, and we're looking for a much darker value, a much darker colour. So there you should be able to see 3 different tones from the one pencil, 3 different shades, just pressing very, very lightly, medium, and quite hard, so you get a much darker tone. So with those 3 values, those 3 tones, you should be able to get some pretty good shading on your pictures. So just keep practicing those. In the exercise I suggested that you try 5 boxes to see if you can get 5 different values ranging from light to dark. So I'll just put that one aside. Now I've picked a picture from Colour Me Happy, which is a book by Angela Porter and Lacey McLeod, because it has some rather interesting shapes in it that I thought would be good for shading. Now I think I'm going to have to actually colour it upside down so that you can see what I'm doing. So in the article I suggested that you pick a direction for the sun to be coming from, or your light source to be coming from. Now I usually like to have the sun coming in from this corner. That's just my preference. It could come in from this corner or from the top. I don't recommend that you have your light source coming from the bottom. It just makes your pictures look a little bit sinister because we're not used to light coming from underneath. So let's start with imagining the light source is coming from this direction, and we might start with this pear here. So I'm going to choose a yellowy orange colour. So the light's coming from here. I know that this part of the pear is going to be darker because this part of the pear is obscuring the light. So I'm going to start by laying down some nice heavy yellow in that part of the pear. Now remember, I'm just doing one colour shading. I could, if I chose to, I could use a darker yellow or an orange in there to give it a little bit more depth, but today we're just looking at one colour shading. Now as I come up the pear, I'm going to relax my grip and make that much, much lighter so that the pear will appear to have some depth. Okay, now as I come up, there's this capsicum here, and it is obscuring the light from this part of the pear, so I'm going to put some shading in there, so a little bit of darkness in there. And then I might leave that little bit of white there, just as a little bit of a shine on the pear. Not too much, because pears aren't too shiny. Okay, and now I might look at, I think these are tomatoes, so I'll be using some red with those ones. Again, the light's coming from this direction, so I know this part of the tomato is going to be darker. Now hopefully you'll be able to see quite well with this darker pencil, well, darker tone, because a red is a darker tone than a yellow. As I come up from a dark heavy pressing up to a lighter shade. So you can see now I'm relaxing the pressure. Now I've got two very distinct values there, so I'm just going to blend those a little bit by pressing just a little bit harder, and that just comes with practice, the blending of the different shades. Come up to a nice sort of light area up here, and there's nothing obscuring this tomato, so I'm going to give it a little bit of a shine there by just leaving some white there. I'm not being too careful with my shading here because I'm having to do this fairly quickly. This little stalk here and the leaves is also obscuring the light, so a little bit of shading there. Okay, now on these tomatoes, you see this tomato is behind this one, so it's going to be dark in there where there's no light getting to the tomato. And it's going to come up to a lighter shade. With a little bit of a shine at the top. And some darkness there. It's quite dark there because it's being obscured by the other tomatoes casting a bit of a shadow on that one. So you can see my picture's starting to show some depth. This one here, of course I'm going to go dark in this area here because my light source is coming from this direction. So dark in here, but I'm also going to go dark here because this tomato is over the top of that one. So that whole area there is going to be dark. And then coming up to a lighter shade. And I'm not going to put any shine on that one, or maybe just a little bit at the top there. Okay, so now you can see that my drawing is starting to have some depth just from putting, there's really only three values in there, very dark, sort of a medium, and very bright with the white. Let's have a look at this pumpkin, and I'm going to switch to an orange. Now this pumpkin is interesting because if you know pumpkins, they have this sort of ridge here that sort of dips down. So I know that's going to be in shadow because it is, well, it's sort of touching that other part, so I'm going to make that dark. I know that it's going to be darker here because my light source is coming from here. And again, in that sort of dip, as the pumpkin dips down. If you're not sure, have a look at some fruit or vegetables. I'm going to make that area dark because that's opposite my light source, and come up to a paler colour. Not leaving any shine on this particular piece just because I just don't feel like it. That's the good thing about colouring, is you can, it doesn't have to be realistic. I mean, this is making it look a little bit like popping out a little bit more, but it doesn't have to be realistic. Okay, now this part of the pumpkin, the tomato is over the top. So I'm going to shade that part because it's underneath something. I'm going to shade this part because that's opposite my light source. And just sort of connect the two with a sort of curvy bit. I'm going to shade this part because I know that the pumpkin dips down in there, and I know it dips down in there a little bit. So if you've ever studied a pumpkin, this sort of stalky bit dips down. And then I'm going to shade the rest, or colour the rest rather, in a medium value. Just giving it a nice little bit of shape there. Now this one here, it's underneath the tomato here, it's underneath the stalk there, and although it's opposite my light source, I'm not going to give that any light value. I'm going to colour that entire section in dark. Okay, let's have a look at this section. It's very similar to this one. It dips down there, so I know that's going to be dark. The light source is coming from here, so just this little bit here is going to be in shadow. And coming up to a lighter shade. And I'm going to give that one a little bit of a shine at the top there, because the light source is coming from here. It's completely unobstructed by anything. A little bit of a shine. A little bit of darkness there where the stalk is overshadowing it. And these other sections, again, dark in the middle where it dips down. Dark where it dips down at the edge there. Dark underneath the strawberry. And then palish up the top there, except for where it dips down. So there's not very much light value in that section either. This one dips down at the stalk, dips down at that segment, and that segment, and the rest of it is fairly pale. Now this, I know, if you think of a curve, this part curves down a little bit, so that might be a little bit darker than up the top, just a little bit, because our light source is coming from that direction. A little bit of shine. This one's going to be quite shiny, I think. Oh no, it's got that. I'm not even sure what kind of vegetable that is. But anyway, it's shading the pumpkin, overshadowing it. So not too much shine on that one, on that segment. And this segment is again going to be quite dark. Okay, now if you're not sure, I'm going to show you how you can fudge your shading. If you really don't know which should be light and which should be dark, let's have a look at this capsicum here. And I'm going to make the capsicum green. Now, I'm going to fudge it by just shading around where the lines touch, or where the segments touch. You might have done this in primary school. I used to do this. You use a darker shade where the lines are, and then I even used to use like a dark texture, and then shade light in the middle. And just do that with each segment. Dark where the lines touch. Oops, went over the stalk a little bit there. And then light in the middle. And you can see that still gives your drawing depth, even if you don't really know where the light's coming from. Dark where the lines are, because most of the time the lines are there because there's some part of the drawing, whatever it is, creates a segment, I suppose. Okay, so dark wherever the lines are, and light in the middle of the segment. Same thing with this one, right around that bit there, in where all those segments are. And light in the rest. So I haven't worried about a light source, I haven't thought about what's behind. Oh, there's a join there, so make that part of the segment. Just a light value in the middle. And same for this bit. Still just using the one colour, but pressing really heavy where the lines are, and then just relaxing for the middle bit, the middle segment. This one, because I'm going around, almost the entire segment is dark, and that creates interest too. And there you have it. There's my capsicum without thinking about light sources, just using that little fudge tip of going dark where the lines are and pale in the middle. I hope you've enjoyed my video today, and I hope that helps you with your shading. If you do have any questions, you can click on the comments and my email will be there, and I'll get in touch with you and maybe help you out. Thank you for watching.